We have about 1 minute. Unless we want to start early.
I turned my volume down, but last time I missed Margaret's messages. So it's not.
Who is Luann? Do we know who that is?
Okay. Planning Commission meeting, November 16th, 2023. Call a meeting to order. Roll call. Who's
Oh, I thought usually they
Yeah,
usually.
no, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
Lauren
yeah,
Lynn,
they're-
Commissioner.
Burton here?
Wallace here. McLeod here.
Don Allen here.
Okay.
Clerk.
You would you like
We
to
don't have
lead the
a-
Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah, we're gonna kick off that.
Oh, please.
Yeah, patience, folks, patience.
Okay.
Oh,
Takes about a minute.
okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any community comments? Anybody from the community?
This is Jeannie Wallace, Commissioner Wallace, and I want to bring up
No Carla.
kind of a,
Microphone.
oh. sorry. I wanted to bring out up the survey that was just sent out regarding the Citizens Parks and Recreation Survey. I would like to bring this back around to the Planning Commission once it's complete. And also bring it to your attention if you have not received it, to fill one out and return it. There's also a website on here,
Mhm.
please.
Please. I've got it. I don't know. Everybody gotten one?
I received one this
Did
morning.
you get one?
I haven't done it yet.
What's that?
Did you get one in the mail? A survey for the parks? You didn't, okay. Well, I'll see that you get one. I know somebody that can give you one.
There you go.
Did you, and you turned yours in?
Yeah.
Right, okay. And there's lines on there for comments. If there's something else you want, like a 36-hole championship golf course, you can write it down. I don't know that happened, but you can write it down. Minutes from the October 26th meeting. Yeah.
Is Margaret on?
I didn't find any minutes in my packet,
No.
so
She emailed them to us, but it's really hard to see.
we need to,
Yeah, mine either.
You had to, you go online and look at them. It's a problem.
which I am not able to do, and I've stated that numerous times, because the school district blocks our internet and we are unable to use it, and I travel extensively.
Okay.
And it's also included in that is the April 20th ones that they put
Mhm.
up the last time too.
Mhm.
But-
So
Yes, George.
Mr. Chairman, I will open up the minutes to you in a hard copy a week ahead of time before the next meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
they usually go on the top of our packets.
Yeah.
We have the
Generally.
agenda, then the minutes,
Okay.
and the body. And
Mhm.
Now, who puts the packet together?
Well, the hard packet normally is Carla, and if I have stuff to hand out, normally it's combined.
Yeah, so I'd like to see, if you can make it happen, George, so we get the minutes
Okay,
in our packets like it has
Good.
been. I'd like to see
Okay.
that
We'll get it.
continue.
We'll save them. We'll have to discuss the next planning commission, I think. Discuss the minutes for tonight and the last planning meeting
sure.
for approval. Okay.
And in April, we never.
Anybody want to,
April.
anybody want to second that idea?
I'll second it.
Okay, and just vote
Aye.
on it.
I,
Motion passes. Okay. There's no scheduled hearings I'm aware of, so we are discussing the planning code and the amendments to chapter 15 of the city codes. Are there any comments or thoughts or?
It was a lot of work.
Hmm.
I recognize that and appreciate it. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yeah, I read them and they're identical to the ones that had the colored
Mhm.
writing.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any typos or spelling errors, and it looks good to me.
Mhm.
Okay,
Commissioner McLeod.
any other comments? I had a couple of questions.
I did notice in the first packet that we got, this last packet we got on this. There's a lot more pages in the second packet than there was the first.
Mhm.
Well, it's because it's one side and the other side was two, the other one was two.
Yeah,
Good point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
well, I think I did have here for the definition section. And I did see in there, seems like I had. I don't know what the heck it was. I thought I had it written down here. I'm sorry. I thought I had it written down here. There was something missing out of it. I also have in here, sorry about that, the findings section, in I. To participate in and maintain eligibility to other insurance and disaster relief, probably be a good idea maybe to put in there, would verify before purchase of the property to find out exactly what it is before you do that, and maybe that might be added to that.
Maybe disclosure of it.
Yes,
Disclosure would be the appropriate word.
yeah,
Yes, because there are people who have bought property that did not have disclosure. And we just recently helped them and they're in the county and they're west of the South Corridor. We redid their land so that they could build homes, sell it. They bought the property and it wasn't disclosed to them that they could not trade out a mobile home to build a house or have insurance or, so that would link to insurance for the flood area. So disclosure would be appropriate.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll change that, make that.
Thank you. That's Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah. I have under 15.10.030 with methods for reducing flood losses. Under B, requiring that development vulnerable to floods be protected against flood damage at the time of initial construction, which includes what? That was my thought.
That was. what,
On, it would be 15.10.030 methods for reducing flood losses, section B.
Would that be under the 15.10.170 start of construction?
Requiring the development vulnerable floods. It's 15.10.030 methods for reducing flood losses. Yes.
Oh, okay. And what should we add there?
Which includes. And there might be several things that might be coming up in that part of it. And I think you should probably put that in there with it.
Put what in there with it?
Yeah, well, which includes what specific subjects would you have that would include in that statement? What would you have in there besides just what's already there? That's why I put in there, which includes.
Okay, I got you.
I also had under 15.10.072 base flood elevation. That's on the next page. Means the elevation to which flood water is anticipated to rise during the base flood. I would think that verify for flood insurance survey might be an issue to have that in there, to have a survey done to find out exactly, like you were talking about before with the disclosure of what they're getting, that be a part of it.
Well, would that not lead into the land map where they already decided where the flood zone is? Would that,
But the elevation shots are important to find out if whether you're actually in it or you're not in it.
Mhm.
Because you
Mayor,
could be in the flood, but not really, in your case, you may not be.
the other mayor mentioned that we can't see that, and if they did a study on that, they would conjoin it, one study for all the homeowner participants and landowners, so that they would know what their land was and where it was at in the flood zone and what the levels were. Linda talked about that last time.
Yeah, she did. You're right.
Mhm.
So maybe something to that effect could be
Mhm.
researched and put in there,
Okay,
because we can't expect, 300 people to have the same study,
No. it's
but we
not gonna
need
hap-
to have someone to do it so that they can use that to get their insurance for whatever it is they're building or permission to build it. Does that help, Don?
Yeah, that does.
Okay, that was
That
Commissioner
does.
McLeod.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Anything else, Don?
And it is evidently you're the flood administrator, huh?
Yes, he is.
Mhm.
Yes,
He's got a crown.
He certainly did.
I'm making the big bucks over
Wow,
there.
that's really good, George.
He
Okay.
can walk on water too.
I tried that before and I can do it with my left foot, but not my right foot.
Oh, okay. Did anything else? It's,
I have some comments.
Okay.
Mine are more editorial.
Okay.
I'm gonna kind of work backwards because that's how I'm working
Mhm.
through the document from last time, but I noticed it's in the new one.
Mhm.
In section 15.10.350. That's like the last page, I believe, of the document. I just have some couple minor ones. In the first sentence, there's a missing space between extent
Yep.
and possible.
Mhm.
And also, then there's a box note for AHBO. I believe those should be deleted. Those are not pertinent to the final document once issued. And there's another one of those boxes that
Oh,
occur.
yes.
Let's see. What section is this? Okay, I'll just take you to the section 15.10.325. It's the previous section, the very last portion. There's another one of those AHBL boxes that should be deleted.
Yep.
Just what, I catch the glaring stuff.
Yeah, no, that's fine, because this is,
Yes.
it's been looked over by a lot of people and this is just.
Well, I
a
missed it.
draft.
Good job.
And
That's why we're having this meeting.
yes, and let's see, I didn't hit all of these because I really, where did? Okay, now I'm gonna take you to 15.10.265. It was a severability paragraph there, and it refers to this ordinance. I'll maybe get there.
What was that number again?
It is, last that part is 0.265.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm nitpicking, but it refers to this ordinance, which I believe should be this chapter. And there's two in the first and the, well, it's a, and I may be incorrect, but
I
I,
think so. I think you should say this section.
yeah, okay, well, it shouldn't be,
Right.
I agree with that.
and then you move down into the section 2.70. Again, these are minor editorial, but after you go to the last sentence of portion A or section A, there is an end and there should be a space.
Section, yeah, I see.
Yes. And then if you move to B, there is again another missing space between existing or proposed structures towards the bottom of that paragraph. And then
Mhm,
the last sentence has several extraneous spaces in it, just to try to clean that up a little.
mhm. That's what happens when a couple of different attorneys and department heads take a look at this, they miss this.
Yeah, and that's what I. There's so many people that look at documents, but we just read through that and
My papers are out of order,
mine
so
are
I
too,
must have
so I'm
skipped a
kind of-
few pages.
And we're gonna put page numbers on there too, to make it a whole lot easier
Mhm.
and clean this up.
oh,
We
that
have
would
a
be
public hearing.
fabulous.
I'll be a little bit.
Much nicer.
I did put page numbers on.
That's
mine.
good.
Good job.
Yes,
Oh, we can use your page numbers then.
Yeah, yeah. I did. It goes to 22, George, by the way. And whenever somebody's done on, I'll go ahead, Jeannie. I'm
you
sorry.
can say what you want to say. It gives me more time to dig through here to find.
Well, I had to do that. Now I got another answer. Okay. When I was talking about in the beginning, I said, I can't find it. The reason why I couldn't find it is because that was the issue. I didn't find in the listing for the sections definitions. And it's not listed.
Okay,
Oh, that's a good point.
So I thought that would probably be a good idea to get that in there.
yes.
I agree with that.
That's not, I thought for sure it'd be here.
You know,
but-
as we change hands,
Yeah.
Dawn, everything's gonna change.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's a good point to bring up.
Okay, I'm gonna get back to my formatting and knowing everybody.
Okay, Jeannie, now you're off. Go ahead.
15.10.113, not 113.
Could you repeat that number?
It is 0.113.
113.
And it's just a format issue. Again, there's a big space here.
Yes.
You need to bring it up.
Yep.
And I'm sorry for this noise, everybody, but it really makes it all look bad when all the,
Yeah.
you know.
True.
No, this will whole be totally looking different when
Mhm.
it's.
Okay,
This is just a rough draft and several
That's
different
awesome.
people have looked at it and made comments, so.
okay, so am I giving you repeat stuff you've already heard? Because I don't need to do your
People miss it.
editorial.
People miss.
I know, and that's what,
Mhm.
I used to be a hazardous permit writer and I'd have 27 people review it and stuff like this, yeah, it looked
Yep,
bad.
yep. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, and I think that's most of them, and hopefully you'll get. But also,
If you find something else, whistle, we'll get it.
okay, I'll just interrupt. That's good. I think I've addressed my editorials. Thank you for indulging me.
Do you have it? What, do you have anything? Yeah, I had a couple of items under 310. We have all manufactured houses must be anchored to prevent flotation, collapse, or lateral movement, and shall be installed using methods and practice that minimizes the flooding, and we find that up front. And A is new construction, substantial improvements. And then we go over to continue on to section, that's under 310, under 320. And C, we have all manufactured homes to be placed or substantial, or homes to be substantially improved, shall be elevated on a permanent foundation.
Hmm.
So are we going with anchoring or permanent foundations?
And are these old homes grandfathered in? I mean, if we're going to
Right.
change the chapter
Right,
wordage, we need to be fair and equitable.
well, anything that be substantially improved, would,
Hmm.
we're not saying you have an old home, you have to anchor it. We're just saying if you remodel it or improve it substantially, the way I'm reading this. But
Mhm.
we have two ways we're defining it. One is anchoring it and one is putting on a permanent foundation, or is that the same as anchoring?
Jenny, you got a comment about that?
I think you need both.
Well,
Mhm.
mobile homes, you anchor them.
Yeah.
Right,
And now on freestanding lots, you have to have the cement foundation.
right.
But I'm not a contractor. I don't know if they
Yeah,
anchor
they're
it
be
too.
elevated. So it's 1 foot or more above the base flood elevation.
Right.
And she'll be, okay, it says, and securely anchored to an adequately anchored foundation system in accordance.
Well, the homes
Can
down,
we combine that into one definition? George, or is that possible?
Where are you?
15, under 310. Under item A. And then the next one's under item C. We're wording the same and
Can you give
Talking-
the number, please?
310.
Yeah.
Under A, items 1 and 2, and then you go continue in 310 or 320, and under 320 to item C.
this is Michelle McLeod, and the homes by the river have been elevated to at least 4 feet, the mobile homes.
Mhm.
So there's a difference between the chapter for them and the chapter for those in the city above the water.
Mhm. Am I overreading that, George, or can we combine them, or?
We can combine it.
Okay. And then under utilities, under 310, under C, line 3, we have on-site waste disposal systems should be located to avoid impairment. Can we change that also? Because that refers to existing, does it not? Item 3, or is that new RVs in that? Or is that's 310 under C, item 3. If not, can we add the words to that and make it read on-site waste systems to be located or designed to avoid impairment to them or contamination from them during flooding? Which would probably include existing sewer connections.
I get, excuse me, I get that of 3 as being on-site waste disposal system, which I'm thinking is a separate system. Totally. And what would happen is that if this located to avoid impairment to them or contaminant to the legal sanitary system that the city provides.
Mm-hmm,
So that's 2 separate things that they're addressing at the same time.
mm-hmm,
And the first one, that's a separate system, and I don't know where that's addressed or how that's addressed in the code. But we're talking about a separate system from the legal system because they don't want to contaminate in case there's a flood,
mm-hmm.
which does happen. Because all the sewer that are open
Yeah,
that can contaminate the rest of the system.
right.
And so
Well, last time we were here, we talked about that they
Mhm.
need to be capped off
right,
Mhm.
because,
that's what they're
Yeah.
that there.
That's inexpensive. Those are like, they can get them for
Right.
about $30. The metal ones like we have, the city has down by the old bank building, those are almost $400.
And that,
right,
okay, on top of that, that type of thing that you have there, if you do have the right connection, that it's in the ground,
Right,
that you can put this in, that'll
Mhm.
tie into it.
Right.
Then you can do that, but
Right.
if you don't, then you're gonna have to come up with that also.
right. Most all the ones I looked at, like at Beach and the others,
Mhm,
are a 4-inch PVC pipe,
mhm.
IPS coming up out of the ground. So this would solvent weld onto them, and they also have a solid connection to connect to a sewer connector, and this is gasketed as a gasket and also can be locked in place.
Is it gasketed on the end?
But
where it
no,
goes
it's
in?
gasketed on the
On the
top.
top, but
Mhm.
what
Right.
about on
The bottom goes into the sewer system.
okay, but
So
there's
it-
gotta be a tight connection to that too.
It goes in the city sewer
Right,
somewhere.
but you gotta have a tight connection to that, because if you don't.
Yeah,
gonna go
it's
right
solvent, well, it's supposed to be solvent welded to the
Huh?
system. Supposed to be solid to the system. I
Right.
believe that's correct.
Yeah, it should be,
Right,
right, it need to be solid system, and this would have to have a tie
right.
in.
Currently, they just stick their sewer hose in the
And
4-inch
drop it
pipe.
in here.
Right.
I have a question. Who's gonna be responsible for this? Cause usually from the ground to the home is the mobile home owner, or anything that goes into the ground is the landlord's responsibility. And we haven't had any luck
Yeah,
with landlords helping tenants in mobile home parks.
yeah,
So
I just have major issues of those vents being left open.
this is a great idea.
Mm,
I just have a major issue internally with those vents being left open,
Right.
period. You know, if they don't have a tenant there, they can lock this off so the kids can't drop stuff in it and that, and I'm just a feeling, so.
And many years ago, I lived in a mobile home park here in town.
Mhm.
And whenever anyone moved a mobile home out and in, it come up underneath other people's homes. So this would help that too.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Another thing that's possible that they're not talking about yet is another thing that could happen. That you're thinking that they're a 4-inch pipe, right?
They're 4-inch IPS. I looked at
Okay,
it.
okay. You could use what they call in the trade, a test plug, a
Mhm.
rubberized.
You
test
could use
plug,
it. You could use that, yes.
and stuff that thing in
You
there.
could
in
do
the
that.
owner Of the park,
Yeah.
when the flood comes, or the city, or whoever, gets somebody designated
Mm,
that could come out and put a test
yeah,
plug in each one of the openings.
yeah, I don't. What are your, I can't envision. Boy, we'd have to have somebody, Johnny on the spot to follow up on those test plugs. I
Yeah,
like this better because.
oh, I do
it-
too, but I'm
yeah,
just saying.
Yeah, that's an
there-
option. That is an option. Yeah, just those rubberized plugs and that'd work too. Anyway, we can put the word in, I'd like to put the word "are designed," so that we're gonna have to go to them and say, hey, this is the code now. You need to help us with it. If you want to put a plug in, great. If you want to do this, great.
You might ask them, the different people that have these parks to get with the city and try to decide between you what you can come up with
Mhm.
that addresses the needs of what you need to have
Yeah.
done.
Our
And
design,
if the city has to help with that, that shouldn't be a problem.
yeah,
Before we move on from C3, I'd like to talk about this because when I
When we
first
get good.
read this, I was thinking about septic systems.
Mhm.
Septic systems are no longer allowed.
Right.
And I almost think this on-site disposal system,
We may have septic systems still. out
but
there.
again, you're not
They
gonna
should be.
back up and make people fix that unless they go to upgrade that. And I guarantee you, I had a septic system. I would have put in a new one and
The only thing is I have to figure out how to cap it off so the water doesn't go into the system, which is if they vacate the lot and they have a septic system, they're leaving it, they can put a plug in like he's mentioning it, fairly inexpensive, or some other way to close it off so it doesn't contaminate.
It needs to be disclosed to the new purchasers as
Yeah,
well.
This reads
And
like.
part
it's
of
a
the
septic
permit.
System, because to me, I had an existing
Mhm.
septic system and I have plenty of land to put a new one in.
Mhm.
and I was not allowed to.
No.
And
Yeah.
so that's where I'm not sure what to do with this. The other issue we have is when you have a low lying unit, if you will, that's trying to hook into the city sewer, they sometimes require lift pumps.
Mhm.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so I'm not sure if that would apply to this specific, but to me, when I read that, and I should have caught that
Mhm.
because I didn't, because of the septic systems are no longer
Mhm.
allowed, and I'm not sure if this is implying they are, because I guarantee you go to some other section of our
Mhm.
codes and it's going to say you can't.
Well,
use
that's
septic
very
systems.
important because west of the high school, that's gonna end up part of the city.
Right.
And all of those people have septic tanks.
Oh, they
And it's
do.
very expensive to put in the line to hook on.
Mhm.
And, you know, if you drive through there, those people, a lot of them aren't any better off than the people down at the little trailer park.
Mhm.
So how is that gonna work?
Most, that is, that mobile home park is the landowners, they pay rent for those lots. Nobody
Well,
owns
my
the
my
lot.
daughter owned one of them.
Oh, she owns one of
She
them.
did. She sold it, but when I was on the council, we talked about annexing that into the
It's
city.
still on the
Eventually.
agenda.
Yeah.
Jeannie?
Yeah, hey, Jenny, code enforcement with the city. So septics do still go in if you are a distance away from the infrastructure pipes. You are allowed to put in a septic. Yeah, so you definitely probably do want to keep it in the code. I know if your septic fails, the Department of Health actually regulates the septic systems. So if you were looking like your system failed, now you're hooking up to the city because the infrastructure pipes are now there, you know, you go through a decommission basically of your septic system with the health department. Just little,
Thank you. Do
Yeah.
you know off the top of your head out what the distance is?
I don't.
Okay.
It's 300 feet.
300 feet.
Oh,
Well, those homes are just basic lots
Yeah, you're talking out here on that edge.
west of the high school.
Yes, sandy, windy, dusty.
Yeah.
Lightning. Mhm. And they're also on their own
Their own
water system.
water system, yeah.
We have a lot. of
Mm.
That is
systems.
really
Yeah.
interesting. I think they forced me. They didn't use that 300-foot rule for me. I was thinking about where my pipe went out the back of the house, and they went and took it from the front of my house.
That's one.
There is a
Okay.
deal with the septic systems also that, if they don't perk, it's what they call, if they
Right.
don't
Yeah.
perk, you can't build them. You don't have enough land
Mhm.
Mhm.
to do it, and then, which makes, if you can't get a permit from the city to hook to the city sewer, or the city sewer is not available, the value of that land just went,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because you can't build on it.
Mhm.
right.
So
Right.
then what do you do? And I don't think there's anything that would allow, like if there's no such thing as a tank and you have something to come out there and pump it every once in a while or something, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So you got a problem, you got a real problem there.
Mhm.
But like Lynn was talking about, we have to have some way to make sure that they don't get contaminated,
Yes.
or the septic system doesn't get flooded,
Mhm.
because if it
Mhm.
does, it's inoperative.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm.
Well, I do know when you sell your property, they come out and look at it because I did that when I was flipping my daughter's house. And they had to cut roots out. It was expensive to make it up to code for that.
Yes.
So it
Mhm.
does periodically get looked at if you sell your property,
Right.
but that's something to think about.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, what are your thoughts about requiring a design to be having them make it designed so it's contamination proof and safe?
In regard to a septic system?
Well,
Or-
actually, if it's a septic system and they've got and they're running a sewer line into it from an RV, when they have to leave, they cap it off when they leave.
Oh, yeah.
Have a way of capping it off, or or a cap on it on the existing lots, a cap on it like the one picture here,
Mhm.
so that we don't get contamination in the city system and flood the city system. So I would like to leave that in there.
Well, I think
Change
it's
that.
really important And I love this, that
Mm.
the one you picked, because it's so inexpensive.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we need to figure out who's responsible to pay for it, install it. If it's landlord, if it's the tenant, how they're gonna regiment it,
Mhm.
because the mobile home parks are grossly unrepresented, the
Mhm.
people that live there.
Mhm. It's probably gonna fall on the owner of
Yeah.
the park.
Property owner.
Yeah.
Because the item's gonna stay there, it's gonna be a permanent fixture.
Right.
It'll be used by the next tenant coming in, so. I mean, once you get your PVC glue out, it'll stay there unless somebody cuts it off
Yeah.
or runs over it.
You
And then-
know,
Go ahead.
we do need to get it in writing, because
Mhm.
I know that I've been out there in the middle of the night years ago trying to cap off water and fix valves, and no one ever came to help.
Mhm.
And it was a much nicer place then.
Mhm.
So we need
Yeah.
to make sure it's worded so that the owners of the property
Mhm.
make sure they do this for their
Right,
tenants.
okay. And then the other one I had is, it's under 320. 320, item D. We talk about permanent attached additions. What all does that include? Does that include permanently attached siding? Or is that just a little build on like like, they build a deck out front, or? I mean, if we're having to pull RVs out for flood purposes, things that they may have built on the lot need to go with them. They don't need to pull out and leave all the stuff to go off in the flood water. And I don't know how to word that so that says that, if you build any structures or you have siding you've attached, you have to take it with you when you leave in the event of a flood
Or if it's built up above.
or up above, right?
Mhm. In the case of a RV park,
Mm-hmm,
not a manufactured home park, but an RV park,
mm-hmm,
they have to be able to leave within 2 hours or an
Mhm.
hour, whatever
right,
it is.
right,
And they can't have any permanent fixtures out.
right. So
We-
that includes siding around the RV.
Mhm.
We
So
talked
siding-
about that last time,
Right.
where like, if they want to build something, it needs to be on some sort of flatbed with wheels to be able to move it. And I know that there are structures down there that are not like that.
We have RVs down there with permanent siding
Mhm.
underneath.
And, we're referring to mainly new things and as they get replaced.
Mhm.
And understanding that some of these things have been there for a long time,
Mm-hmm,
but if they get destroyed or abandoned and they get replaced, then we want them to conform to our new language. Our new
Okay.
code.
And basically, my understanding is that is cued by coming to the city hall to get a permit for
Yes.
any type of
Mhm.
permits or reconstruction. And so that's how they're notified.
mm-hmm.
But if they're really small, they could slip under the radar.
Mhm.
So there needs to be some sort of verbiage that is specific to this so that everyone complies.
They will comply
Yeah.
when there's a flood. Let
Well,
me tell you,
Yeah.
I've been through 3
Yeah.
of them,
Mhm.
and once they're flooded, people abandon them, and the city will haul them out, or FEMA will take them out. And so you get caught up pretty quick with those type of cases,
Mhm.
Well,
unfortunately.
it's hard to sort out, because I know personally when beach overflowed many times, just random people went down there and pulled them trailers out.
Mhm.
And it took a long time to sort it out, whose stuff was whose, and animals were being picked up. And at least if we have some sort of verbiage that specifies this or that, we've at least got some sort of order for the future.
By the way, you also have during that, what you're talking about, you have, workers that are working out there on the site or something. And they might be here during the week and then they leave for the weekends and go home, somewhere wherever that may be.
Mhm.
And the trailer's there and then you got a flood
And then you don't know how to get the trailer, you can't move it, nobody, you don't have a responsibility. I mean, it can get really bad, and I've seen it in action.
And they will lock on the hitch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and here you are, it's a real mess, and it can be,
Mhm.
really can be.
I think there needs to be something, to the effect that they need to clean the lot up as they're leaving of their property or leave with their property.
As we
Mhm.
approve new mobile home parks, whatever, we can have a condition in there that it's a requirement of that park that the tenant, it recognizes that they have to, if there is a case of a flood, that they have to be able to leave. And so they are on notice if that situation arises, even though they're out of.
It's
community,
their
but
responsibility to
It's
make
their
arrangements,
responsibility,
Mhm.
yeah. To make arrangements so their trailer can move.
right?
And I've seen it too and seen it personally,
Mhm.
where somebody has a trailer down there. And they don't have a rig they have a rig to put it in there, but when later they got rid of that. And now they have no way of pulling the trailer out when the flood came.
Mhm.
And I personally
yeah.
had to pull 3 trailers out of beach and take them to another park because of that fact.
Because you
So
had-
Don was one of our random people.
Yeah.
Can you include with a recreational vehicle and their personal property? So that they remove their personal property and their personal property, which would include any steps they may have built, any swing set they may have put in the yard. And that, so we don't have it going down the river or creating other problems. We already have enough debris without adding to it.
And I think that
it's-
would, oh, sorry, Laura.
I was just gonna say the capacity, a lot of people aren't gonna have that ability. I mean, you got hours to get your home out of there.
Mhm.
They're not gonna be able to hire somebody to come and take the
Mm-mm.
swing set down and get it out. So I think we're being a little bit unrealistic because
Yeah.
hopefully
Well, we may be, but if they get half of them out, great. If they leave half of them, that's okay, but the less we have to worry about, the better.
but to write it into our codes, I'm a little concerned about that because at that point, you're trying to save lives and homes and
Mhm.
I mean, I just don't know if it's realistic. I mean, what do the rest of you folks think?
Yeah, I think you really have to do something. I'm not sure what you gotta do, but you're gonna have to work it out. But the main thing is safety. You don't want anybody getting contaminated. You don't want to get anybody hurt. You want to make sure it happens. Now, I'm just a little bit off color, but I gotta tell you anyway. I was in one of those trailers years ago, many years ago. And next door, and I was in my trailer and I smelled smoke. And what the heck? I thought, my gosh, the damn thing's on fire,
Mhm.
So I went outside the door and looked. And I just seen this woman leaving right away. And this guy that was living next door to me was, lack for a better word, fooling around, okay? And this woman was very upset about that. And so she took debris and put it around the trailer and set it on fire. And I was there and I seen the fire burning around the tires and stuff. And out there and got rid of that, but it happened. It actually did happen. So things like that happen, and you never know what that kind of thing is gonna be like because it happens every day.
They may not be able to get everything out, but if they can work at getting everything out, great. If not, it is what it is. I mean, we have a lot of things that even happen in the city now that we have codes for that are codified that we kind of deal with. And I don't know that someone will be able to get all their stuff out of there. I mean, there's some pretty elaborate sightings.
I have an
and-
idea for that. I just put to my head. If you have an owner, or let's say beach trailer park,
Mhm.
and he's got so many spaces, then that person has to come with a contract
Yes.
between the person that rents and buys that spot. And this is the requirements that you must do, and he has to sign or she has to sign or they both do, whatever. And it's the requirements for that spot that needs to be done, and you have to do it. I mean, it's no ifs, ands, or buts. And then that way he's protected, and so is the owner, and so is the city.
So you're talking about the lease,
Huh?
the lease.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's usually a month by month thing that you pay so much. And that kind of, that's fine, but the idea is that you have, when you go in there, this is what you have to do. Here's the contract. This is what the city requires. You're gonna have to do this. If they say that you have to have a way or have it set up somehow, whereas that trailer can be moved if we have a flood, that there's a way of doing that and it's in the contract. And if you sign it, that makes sure that that gets done.
Well,
Otherwise, the city can come after you for it.
Well, right now I understood we were talking about the extraneous stuff around the trailer. Was that not what you're referring
Yes,
to? That's what I'm thinking. People are gonna have a truck, the RV, they're gonna hook it up and they're gonna throw what they can in the pickup bed and they're leaving.
Right.
And
but
that was my concern about things like
Well-
wings
Yeah.
and being realistic and holding people.
mhm.
It's, Jeannie, it is true what you're saying, but at the same time, there's people, a lot of those people, and I know because I was down there. They're on a job somewhere out in the area and
Right.
they're gone on the weekends. And
Yeah.
if a flood comes up, that trailer of theirs sits
Yeah,
because nobody's gonna take the responsibility.
Well, the landlord needs to work out an emergency evacuation plan for the whole
Park.
park.
Yes, the property owner does.
And that way,
Gotta come
every
up with stuff.
tenant will know what the
Yeah.
plan is.
Right.
And they have a backup plan
And
and the
who's gonna
property
help
owner is
them?
responsible.
If you lock your trailer hitch, the landlord should have a key to that.
mhm.
If you're a traveler
Right.
or you're out where you can't evacuate your stuff.
And that
Each
could be-
landlord needs to have an evacuation plan for everyone that matches.
And regulate what's
and
coming
if
in.
That's really true.
Swing
at the
sets,
s- at the
whatnot.
same
That-
time.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to separate them out.
We've
between-
talked about trailer parks a lot because we don't have any way to help these people at this
Mhm.
point.
You know, I like Don's comment about an agreement because it would also discourage them from accumulating stuff
Yeah.
if they know they have to remove it.
Right.
And I like that.
And
Perspective.
in that agreement, it also can be in there, like what you're talking about, getting rid of the trailer. If the flood comes and you don't make arrangements, the city has the right to call a tow truck and have it pulled and you are responsible for the bill.
Mhm.
That's reasonable.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's reasonable or something.
And
But it's your responsibility to make sure that that trailer gets out. Because if it don't, and the flood comes, that thing is gonna be floating down the river.
well, I was referring more to like the swing sets or chicken
Right.
coops or
Mhm.
whatever, to make the RV. And that's why I think we need to distinguish between the RV as personal, private property and the land is owned by somebody else
Mhm.
usually.
Right,
And
we're-
so that's where I was not talking
It is a
about
fine
the
line.
trailer. And I did not want to make the RV owners responsible for throwing everything in the back of their truck that is not gonna fit and making them legally responsible for
Yeah,
any
that
debris.
becomes the person's responsibility that is renting the space.
That's when I agree, and we're trying to,
Yeah,
It's-
not the
right.
owner.
yeah,
Yeah.
I used to have a
He's just the
swing set,
landlord. He's not responsible for your junk. Yeah.
yeah, and
swing
that's,
set and trampoline and the dog and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Cause I've had kids and I raised a lot of kids. I have two of my own and I would not have thought to remove the swing set in an emergency.
and that's the last thing you're thinking.
No,
I
but
mean,
I understand why he's
Yeah.
saying that because that's important to not have debris floating down the river.
Yeah.
But
And it's good, but what I'm saying is the people with RVs are not going to have the capability to do it within
Yeah.
a short
Hmm.
time frame. And if we can put it back on the property owner to deal with
No,
other
it's not the property,
extraneous.
it's the owner of the personal property.
right,
And I just, I'm just thinking, some of them I've seen have really elaborate siding.
Yeah,
And
Pretty fancy.
pretty fancy, and that
Yeah.
going downstream, you know, can compound issues and floods,
yeah.
so. I don't know,
The other thing is
I-
too with all that, and I agree, there's something else that they do. If they're there for quite a while, they will build a frame and a skin around the trailer to keep
Right.
it warm underneath the trailer.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if it's already on there and a flood comes up,
guess what? They're not gonna pull that skin and frame off there in 10 minutes.
No,
I mean, it ain't gonna happen.
Nope.
So that's another thing too, and that's nothing unusual for them to do.
No, in fact, I believe a lot of the parks require that
Yeah.
security. It's not an option. They
It's a
require it.
law.
Yeah, that's a reality.
You must have security.
Okay.
Yeah.
They-
You have to take your wheels off
Yeah.
in some spots.
yeah,
I remember my mobile home had that and we kept all of the bottom of it, like a lot of people rent that or sell it. We never did that. But you take the tongue off, you take the wheels off, and a lot of that comes apart.
But we're speaking of RVs, right?
That was an RV,
You were right.
but for permanent RV lots.
Right.
The one that isn't built yet is supposed to be a mobile RV lot behind the blank slate. Remember that?
Mhm.
I think it's like 36 or 38 units on a 3 acre lot. And that is supposed to be for travelers. And that's just right there above the flood.
Okay.
And- Yeah, so we've got like 3 situations going on there.
Okay. I
You know,
didn't
we've got
realize
beach,
that was
we've got the
RV.
blank
Okay.
slate behind there, and we've got the little trailer park,
Okay.
which is I drove through there. And I don't know how they can be up to code.
Who's that?
Uh,
That,
I'm sorry, I'm having a
the
moment.
drug place down
Oh,
off of
geez.
7th. I
There's
don't know
a-
what they-
We've got issues down there.
Green Acres. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Green
yeah.
Acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to walk through it.
I drove through there and I was
I
reconsidering it, but they are important and we need to consider
No.
them.
yeah. That's
is
that's
important.
a great item for discussion someday.
Sorry. We'll have to address the drug.
Well, they need
there.
the sewer pipes and they need to be able to
I
get out.
have one thing I was gonna.
Just
ask.
remember, we are being recorded.
We have.
Yes, well, I'll stand behind anything I ever say, no
Very-
matter how outrageous it might sound.
Michelle, do you remember,
true.
well, a while back during all this time? When they put that down there on the main drag coming in, they put that in there to loop the water to keep it from going over.
That, he's
Right,
referring to the
yes.
arm that goes
Yeah, the
between
arm
the
down there.
camping area with tents.
My question is that since we put that arm in there, has Beach Trailer Court ever been underwater?
I don't know, but I
Now,
do
that's a good
know that
question
it has
because
been
they
really
used to
high.
flood all the
Mhm.
time.
It floods like a pond down there,
Yes,
because
it
we
does.
talked about cleaning that up, and to my knowledge, it has never been routed out, and I mentioned it numerous times that perhaps that's something we need to consider to keep the flood level down to where the map has it.
The, you know, on the sighting, I have the same concern you have, how permanent some of it is. But you can also, there's also options for sighting that can quickly be detached too. So, you know, telling the tenant who's renting down there and putting his RV in that if you're gonna put siding in, you know, it needs to come off quickly. You know, you can't, he can't be out there for 1 hour with this DeWalt tool trying to get all the screws in.
And take the 400 pounds of canned goods and groceries underneath it.
Right.
I mean, they do it.
And the dog.
And the dog. And the dog goes under there in the winter. I'm sorry, but that's true. That's the way it works.
Yeah, anyway, I don't know what your feelings are on that personal property, including it in there or what. Anybody wants to make a motion on that or? Have
You make a
consensus?
motion.
Which part do
Okay.
you want to make? a
Yeah.
Well,
motion
I'll
about?
make a motion to include their personal property in it for removal when they're leaving. Anybody want to second
Yeah, I'll second.
it? Okay. Let's start with Dawn. How do you vote?
Yay on that one.
Okay,
I'm not sure which property you're referring to.
this, the
You've talked
tenant's,
personal
the
property.
tenant's personal property has to go with him in his RV some way, somehow. He can't just drive off and leave it.
Which Michelle and I are looking at each other because
Right.
we know it's inevitable. They
I know,
will
it's a
drive
tough
off.
one.
They will
drive.
drive off.
I've
and leave
driven
me.
through
You're
there.
right, George.
This isn't a public hearing, so we can do it by consensus.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah. Do that.
okay. We'll do it.
But it
that
is a
way.
big issue.
Right, right. It is an
It's a
issue.
huge
Yeah,
issue.
we try to deal with that if there is a new mobile home park or RV park where we require the landowner or the manager, they will draw up a list of conditions for living or
Mhm.
staying in that park, and those kind of things can be listed in there. That the tenant or whoever comes in there staying will have to abide by those type of rules.
Can we include it for new tenants coming into an RV park
Yes.
in their agreement? Okay,
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
That's pretty common.
Mhm.
yeah. It's just, that Michelle and I are thinking retroactively, Green Acres and some of these other places.
I don't know
that-
how some of these
that which
people
we-
can even straighten up their yard,
They
let
are, they-
alone evacuate. They're leaving with their kids
Mhm.
and maybe their dog.
Yeah,
If they gotta
That's
leave,
it.
they gotta leave.
Michelle and I, Dawn probably was too, the Hanford fires.
Mhm.
Oh,
That happened in
boy.
Oh, my
two
gosh.
thousand, that was
Oh.
like,
Well, that's.
I'm
It's-
thinking of
I was
something
gonna-
like
that
that,
fire
and
was
you're
1
not
mile.
gonna, I was thinking, I got 2 tractors, they're gonna burn. 'Cause
I-
I don't have
That fire
trailers,
was-
I've got all these extraneous farm equipment. It's like you just, I literally took my photo albums, my saddle, my pets. It's.
I waited for the last minute.
And,
I lived about, I don't know, a couple blocks from
That was bad.
Miss Wallace
That-
and on top of Lower River Road. She lived down at the bottom. She's still there. And I loaded up my van with my art collection and a box of stuff I thought was important. And my kids, and we took the town car and the van, and I
Yeah.
thought, gosh, we could get that other car out if I would have let Angela learn to drive.
Yeah,
She was like 12. And that's what I left with.
yeah,
We
Yep.
didn't even have clothes.
yeah. When you're thinking about your
Mhm.
automobiles and
And we left we waited
Everything.
for the last minute and
Yeah.
it burnt our friend's house out.
yeah.
And the fire jumped towards town. And
talking about
Ole
Patty?
Leonard's
That's my
house.
sister.
Fire- that-
Yeah,
Sister's house was
Patty,
just
and
totally
it
gutted.
was just horrible. And
Yeah.
we waited for the last minute to go.
Yeah.
And that's what we took.
Yeah,
Two cars, our kids, and a bunch of art, but we couldn't replace.
yeah.
That
See me
was,
out on the roof, put 2 rainbirds up there in the hose.
Yeah, we put water on the
Yeah.
top of
Well,
our
that
mobile
was-
home.
See, that was before I redid my house and I still had wooden shingles that
You
were
did.
like
Oh,
100
no.
years old.
Right.
And
Oh,
I
no,
knew it
those
was
were
going.
instant
I
ignition.
knew it was gonna go.
But-
yeah,
And we've lived through all the floods
Yeah.
too.
yeah, but that fire was moving 1 mile every 15 seconds,
Hmm.
which was astounding.
That's
It
what
was
really
terrible.
Yeah,
And it took-
yeah, that fire moved 1 mile. It'd be the same thing if we had a 100-year flood develop, in the upper Yakima. I don't know
Wow.
if we would even be able to get all the RVs out of town.
That's what I was
No.
saying. I was
Yeah.
thinking about Mount St. Helens
Mhm.
when it blew because they had
Mhm.
all of this material coming down the rivers. It was taking out bridges and stuff. And that's what I'm thinking, other than
Mm,
100-year floods
Right.
was,
We-
it's not
We may,
realistic.
you
So,
you may have a flood that we're leaving town just to
Right.
save our lives.
yeah,
But anyway, if we've got enough time and notice and
yeah,
the weather service has said, get ready because this is gonna be your flood stage and,
yeah,
but there's gonna be things that we can't,
right.
We might be on a runaway this evening, but we have survived the floods that came clear
Yeah.
to the second
Yeah.
Conoco. My mother and father-in-law's house was right across the street and the ditch was open because it was canal instead of Chris. That's where the flood water went, this ginormous ditch that went clear from 14th from the river all the way down through town, 7th, and then down to the river.
Mm,
And then it also, the canal collapsed because of that, which we shouldn't have that.
And it was
problem.
huge.
And it was down Lower River Road, quite a ways down that you would never imagine would flood, but the canal failed. It was
Okay.
elevated up, maybe, I don't know,
The-
25 feet, 20 feet.
The arm eliminated that or alleviated it.
Okay,
So, okay.
So
let's get back to the
To
meeting.
manage this meeting.
That's, yes, I agree.
letting us get out of
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah, you're gonna have us roasting marshmallows at this pace. Is there any other changes anybody would like to propose? Okay,
I just would like to make one comment. That's, I see George got a whole lot of information he's got to go through. Is this something maybe you wanna put together with some other people in the staff and this and that, kind of do a workshop or something, kind of figure out what the city, where they stand, where they want to go, what's gonna be the better for the city, the citizens, the whole bit. I mean.
An itemization of the facts.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and find out where you're gonna go with all this thing. I mean, there's a lot of info there that was brought up.
This has been proposed and reviewed by the Department of Ecology, the previous planning consultants, the mayor,
Mhm.
as others. And this is something that we have to have.
mhm,
And I mean, we can have another workshop, but we can go through each line on them just to make sure everybody's clear on this and then have a hearing. We need to get on this here in the next month or two.
we have to have it done by the first of the year.
Yeah, so we can walk through each one of these to make sure
Mhm,
that everybody's clear on all
all
of it.
right.
Is there something that maybe?
And then we will have a
Reference
public
to other cities, they've had the same issue with, having trailer parks and stuff all over. You familiar with that?
200 trailers in Pendleton flooded.
So you're familiar with that?
Yikes.
What do they do?
What they did,
Yeah,
they had a lot of these conversations and it flooded. And some of these poor people were stuck
Yep.
and just walked away.
yeah.
And they gave away their title to their motorhome or whatever to the manager and left.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the money to remove them. And here came FEMA a
Yeah.
week or two later with checks. And those people were out because they gave away the title.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. What the best way to do is communicate with these people that have these motor homes or these mobile home parks that are in the floodplain and these homes and communicate from us. This is what can happen.
Mhm.
And it does happen. People say, well, it doesn't flood at Pendleton. Well, yes, it does. And because of climate change or whatever, you have these issues and it rose fast.
Mhm.
Right.
And it goes faster than people can move.
When we were
Yes.
teenagers, it was fast and it was bad and everyone was sandbagging and like I said, rescuing everyone. Some people went out in flat bottom canoes or canoes and flat bottom boats,
Mhm.
one of which I owned. And so that's how the lanes got out.
Yeah,
And
Our public works director, at 3 o'clock in the morning, it always happens in the middle of the night,
right.
always. And our public works director, he got the biggest skip loader he could find and start picking up little old ladies that were living in their trailers and stuff that couldn't get out. The water was, there was flooded in their homes and he put them up in the scoop and drove them out.
Well, that's what we did with small boats.
Mhm. Anyway,
And we're trying to avoid that.
you know,
Right.
Well, routing that arm out would help to make sure we stay with the floodplain that they're suggesting we're at.
this is separate from running the remotes.
Yeah.
Right.
This is, but you're correct.
So
but
is
this is
most of the
Yeah.
things we talked
Right,
about.
Right.
Well, and George can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that this part of passing this is also going to affect our national flood insurance program. So it is like super important we work on this, otherwise our residents will lose that. So it's like we've kind of been on it for a while, and I know there's been changeover in the city and we've had changeover in the planners. So yeah, I just kind of want to reiterate the urgency in that,
Okay, well,
to stay in.
I think we're close.
Yeah, I think we are too.
that's
Yeah.
For the editorial
Yeah.
stuff, because
Yeah.
I thought we were so close
Mhm.
to the end that
Yeah.
They're there.
And we don't need to be 100% correct, because this can be amended as we
Right.
go along, as we see how these things work.
Mhm.
But that's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Um,
Thank you.
if we're done with this, let's continue on and George has a report on his report.
What about Lori? Did you have any comments?
I have no idea because in Maine, we know ahead of time to the point, if it's a hurricane coming up, because I live down the coast, you had time,
Mhm.
people, you moved, and up where the, and, oh, in the county, like in Fort Kent, between the St. John River, between Canada and Maine, they had the, I don't know, FEMA or somebody, along the river, they built like, there's mounds, and it's like about that high above. And so it really floods up there anymore because they went in and they did all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the West.
I had no idea. We're not quite as
Okay.
Well developed or established.
Okay, George, you've got,
This is one item I'd like to include, and this is dated November 15th. I know it's not a week ahead of time, but I've been pretty busy here the last while. I think there's an older one attached to your packet.
Yeah.
there's an older one in the file.
Yeah.
And so normally what I do for the city council meeting, I normally put this out. And this is dated November 15th, and I'll just go through it real briefly. And the first item is on North Kitty Avenue, that's River North subdivision. Hayden Homes is proposed or
Mm.
submitted a preliminary plat. I think you guys are familiar with it because I think it came through.
I was gonna say, we did that.
Right.
last year.
Mhm.
Normally you have a hearing when they submit for preliminary. And so a lot of these things are covered, and then they come in when they're just about done. And they are been working out there on the public infrastructure and stuff.
Mhm.
And so they're wrapping things up for winter time, and they come in for a final plat approval that goes to city council. There's no hearing involved. They will just review it to make sure that the bond, we require the contractor there, Hayden Homes, to have a performance bond, and it'll be on file with the city for 2 years. And to make sure if Hayden Homes leaves tomorrow, that we have money available to finish up the public improvements. And so they have submitted a bond for $1.5 million and a couple of other items, so they're ready to go, and that will be going to the city council for final approval next Tuesday. And they have also, we're gonna get a check for 45,000 for in lieu of parks fee. So that's, will be going to the city for park improvements and equipment and that kind of stuff.
Hence the survey.
We're not there yet. The survey's on the deck, actually.
But as part of that, when we had that hearing, the farmers that were around here, that they had like barbed wire, I guess fences, that type of stuff, and part of it that we included in our notes is that they had to put up a fencing, like vinyl fencing or something to separate those people that had their farms in this housing. Has that been
I
accomplished
think
or?
so. River North, I know there were some issues on the
Remember
fencing. I
that?
think that was taken care of.
Okay,
Good,
yeah, because I wasn't fair to the people.
because
that
it'll
live
start
there.
all over again.
Yeah,
If it's not,
I just wondered.
thank you.
Next
Check
couple
those
items
people.
are, there's a gentleman that's on Dale Avenue, and our new mayor was introduced to him this afternoon. And he has a couple of land use applications there. One is he's requesting the city vacate an existing public right of way next to his building. And the reason is because I think it's 6th Street and it's very, very steep, and the city's not going to build a road there. And so he's asking for that to be included in his property, and in lieu of, he's going to help the city build a water line up the hill there, so he's gonna participate that.
Well, that sounds fair.
Yeah. And he's doing a commercial site plan and boundary line adjustment to build a new commercial building warehouse there. He's got a couple of other businesses down there on Dale Avenue, and he employs 50 people there now, so that's a good thing. Down on the bottom there's Olson Brothers. They have submitted their application. We have submitted their SEPA checklist to the State Department of Ecology. I also ran a copy of their plat, preliminary plat, to the school superintendent as well as the supermarket there, as well as other folks. And we have a couple of comments back, one from the county regarding the road to the west and requesting a wider pavement there, and some
That's Highland Road.
Highland Avenue. And on the east side, maybe some improvements to the state highway. But otherwise, the issue with possible soils contamination, because it's been in agricultural use, so they're going to be required to do some soils examinations. This application will be coming to this body for a hearing on their preliminary plat, hopefully next month, if the reviews have been finalized. So be expecting that. And that is, again, for 209 residential lots. There's single family homes, residential. So it's going to be a big impact. There's going to be a lot of people up there.
So they're gonna address the gutters and sidewalks and
Oh, yeah.
and
They'll
hook
do all
lines
that.
and
Yeah.
all of that. Okay.
Sidewalks, gutters, pavement,
Mhm.
all the infrastructure.
And it's R3.
This R3.
That's density.
Mhm.
I'm
Sure.
just more worried about the school's ability to absorb
Yeah,
the
we're-
children. I
There's
mean,
some issues there.
Yeah, we'll work
Yeah.
on that. That's another item for discussion.
yeah.
The next item on the back is grant funding opportunity. Washington State has offered the city $100,000 grant, and that's going to be used for doing climate planning. And that's going to be part of the comprehensive plan update. And that's going to be like a 1.5 to 2-year project. Part of that money will be going to a joint participation with the county and the other cities to take a look at climate reduction, gas emissions and things like that. And the other part's going to be for looking at maybe electric cars, hookups, that sort of thing, to try to reduce trips and things. The next item is Parks and Rec Plan Addendum Update. And one of the reasons we're doing this is because it's a requirement of Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office to do the update every 5 years, and it's been a little longer since we've updated the park plan. And they call it the Pro Plan. And if we get a pros plan done, then we are eligible for monies for parks. And part of the park plan is that there was a survey done, and that's and we updated the survey questions and stuff, and that went out both online
Mail.
and mail. We've mailed out over 2,000 of them, and it's both in English and Spanish. And so please, if you've got comments regarding all these things, please get your comments in to us, and we will take this in consideration. And what I'm trying to do, we do have on our municipal code for a parks board, parks commission.
Mhm.
And we need to discuss that with staff and mayor. How we want to do this. Do we want the planning commission to take that on? Do we want other people to be on the parks board to discuss? Do we need more parks? Where do you want them? That sort of thing. So we get some ideas on where we want to go with that. So that'll be happening hopefully next spring or next year on that. So that's pretty exciting. We do have some new parks and things, so that'll be in the parks plan. And so hopefully some pretty nice things will be coming out that, some opportunities. And the last item there, I did attend the Washington State Transportation Commission meeting, was held in Pasco for a couple of days. And they asked me to talk a little bit about the town here. Sorry you missed it. And I thought it went really well. I made a PowerPoint presentation, and it's interesting. Pasco and Richland and West Richland, they're huge development there that could happen. And most of it is all owned by a single property owner.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
And it can have major impacts
Mhm.
if this, when it goes, but they have no water. And so they still have to deal with this. I thought that was pretty interesting. And Pasco's got all these grandiose plans too. And here is Kennewick saying we need a new bridge over the Columbia River. And I was saying, well, we need maybe a new bridge somewhere out here.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
we were talking about the 20-year plan to move the other direction in town, there was talk of a bridge out there north of town towards the Vantage Highway across there. And I
Mhm.
don't know if anything has happened with that.
No, my understanding is the traffic surveys were done by the state. The state said their traffic was not of sufficient quantity to justify that. The challenge is it's more complex. There are other issues with it that I feel the state has ignored. And
Okay,
so-
well, people
it's
would
an-
use it
so
if
it's
they
an-
build it.
It's an agenda item, so it's
Right.
something that
And
that's take work.
for evacuation purposes, it'd be
Mhm.
valuable.
You know, not everybody wants to swim in wine to get out of town.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're humored.
So I let them know about our traffic issues here, our commute problems in the morning and the afternoon. With all the workers going to Hampton out.
One thing that has amazed me, and you have to know what trucks look like, is now in the area north of Richland, there is a commodity operation now that supplies corn and cottonseed and the other stuff to the dairy farms. Historically, most of the trucks went around. We're getting a lot of those trucks coming now through Benton City because of traffic. Now,
Yeah.
18-wheeler traffic is just off the scale.
And they used to not allow that.
We
The-
had-
The roads have just deteriorated
I know.
immensely
I
since
know.
we've allowed those.
That's an
heavy-
We made a rule when I was on the council for them to go around through 14,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
no one has,
that way.
yeah, no one has enforced it, but
Yeah.
it's something that could be looked into because,
Yeah.
that's the solution.
Well,
At least for now.
Cause the whole road going out to the
the
Hanford
code,
site, it's
yeah,
bad.
it's all
People
bad.
aren't even taking it because
No,
the road's
it's
so
really-
bad.
Yeah, it's a whole other issue. Anyway,
Yeah.
I mean-
Sorry, I got off track.
No, I leave it
What
six.
else you got, George?
Oh.
I just want to thank everybody for coming here tonight and providing very good input to this. And it's not all that easy to understand, but we're trying to make it understandable. And
Mhm.
FEMA is in some very
Yeah,
interesting rules
yeah.
as well as the Department of Ecology. So
Mhm.
it's to get it done.
Okay.
I'd
Well,
like,
that's-
I have a question. I guess we can turn it off and then,
Wait, would you like to
What
end the
what you
meeting
have?
or?
I
you
just have a
wanna-
question about the traffic in the morning, because I work Wednesdays and Saturdays. Wednesdays is terrible trying to get out of this town. I leave at 6:20 in the morning. And those cement trucks, wherever it is that they're coming, they can't get up the hill. And so it backs up all the traffic so that you can't even get
That's a,
around,
it's a problem. Yeah,
Dangerous.
yeah,
you know?
that's a state problem
Yeah.
That's a state problem.
Data City.
and we
Yeah.
need to. It's gonna take a lot of work on the state.
Yeah.
That's not an easy one. George is an expert handling state
Oh,
politics.
very
so-
good, George.
One new item though, I've noticed that the planning commission members here do not have their nameplates, and I've requested from the city to
Okay.
have new nameplates.
Oh,
for the
thank
commission.
We used to.
Thank you.
You mean I ain't who I am?
No,
I guess I'm not.
Yeah,
Behind
you're
the
Sarah
scene.
tonight. You're Sarah tonight.
Yeah.
Dawn.
I'm Sarah.
Okay, if that's it, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Is she still on the commission, Jessica? Is she? Or I mean,
She's still kind of,
city
Sarah's resigning.
Oh,
Yeah, I
she
know.
is.
Sarah is moving. She's